Making my own game has proven to be the most difficult thing I've ever undertaken in my life. Yet, I find myself to be profoundly grateful for the journey it has presented me. Let me explain. What's up? What's good? What's happening? My name is Arn, and I'm an indie game developer. There's a quote mostly attributed with Alex Hormozy, and it goes, "Your work works on you more than you work on it." This notion captures the profound impact our endeavors can have on our personal growth, which is a sentiment I wholeheartedly embrace. For the past 3 years, I've poured a lot of my heart and soul into my game, Yours Truly. And in doing so, I've witnessed a transformative evolution within myself, which has profoundly affected every facet of my life in and out of game development. If you're a gamer or you're just familiar with games, you know that game development is a labor-intensive process, and it can span years
or even decades depending on the scope of the project, which encompasses a multitude of disciplines.
Most games, especially AAA games, are worked on by large teams of programmers, UI and UX designers, visual artists, musicians. Essentially, game development, it involves every facet of human progress. Math, science, art, technology, even medicine if you have a medical-based game. It is technically, artistically, and creatively difficult. Now imagine doing it all by yourself for years, on top of life and work. Indie game developers are just built differently. Because I've navigated this intricate landscape of game development largely on my own, confronting challenges both technical and creative. From the very beginning of developing Yours Truly, I had no illusions of grandeur. I was well aware of the daunting odds stacked against me, because the truth is most indie games never achieve commercial success. Out of the 10 successful indie games we hear about, there are probably 100 unsuccessful indie games that we don't. So the road to completion is filled with setbacks and uncertainties. I knew I was making a calculated risk. I've always been very disciplined and consistent with the things I'm passionate about, and I've also been very tenacious. I remember when I was a teenager, I forced my best friend to play Guitar Hero for 8 hours because I couldn't beat him in one song. I never won, but he gave up, so, he lost. I'm the type of person to power through things. During the first year and some months of development of Yours Truly, I was full of vim and vigor. I isolated myself from the world and focused, which is a thing that I actually enjoy. I was putting in a lot of hours early in the morning before work, and I was also putting a lot of hours at night right before I go to sleep. For a while, I finished a lot of things quickly. The first, second, third, and fourth level of the game. I was very excited about the progress. However, despite my inherent discipline and tenacity, the initial enthusiasm and excitement I brought to the project eventually gave way to doubt and exhaustion. It became unsustainable to maintain. In short, I was burning out. It became no longer fun and exciting to work on the game. The amount of work I was already doing and the amount of work existing in my head just seemed endless. I honestly felt like Sisyphus pushing a rock uphill, because whenever a goal or task was met, there was always another one. Sometimes I even had to backtrack because, coding is very, very complicated. Telling you now, my character has never been tested like what game development has put me through. I just couldn't see how it was gonna end, and I was more focused on the negative things. I was thinking about the mechanics I had to put in, the music or the sound effects that I had to add to the game to make it immersive, the broken things I needed to fix. But even though I was feeling burnout, I still powered through. And the only problem was that what I was producing was not good. I was rushing, trying to finish the work just for the sake of being done, and not for the sake of making the best game I can make. And on top of that, a lot of feelings of uncertainty started to sink in. I asked myself, what am I doing this for? The game's gonna fail anyway. No one's gonna buy it. I think my game sucks. Other indie developers are better. No one really cares. Because the thing is, when you're working on a long-term goal for years, and you're used to seeing short-term results, it feels like your work doesn't amount to anything because you're not seeing results right away. The weight of expectation started to weigh on me because I was used to short-term results, and I found myself grappling with imposter syndrome, which is an insidious specter threatened to derail my progress. And that's why I never posted anything about my game until now, because my insecurity lies in my game not being good enough, or myself not being a good enough game developer. I couldn't help myself but only think about the negative things, think about all the things that could go wrong for my game. But like I said, I was tenacious. During that time, I was still pushing through and doing work. However, I started to recognize the toll this negativity was weighing upon my game and myself. Eventually, I made a difficult decision to step back and reassess. I just don't want that kind of energy in my game, especially because I'm creating a game about self-rediscovery and following your dreams and finding purpose in life. It became clear to me that to imbue yours truly with authenticity and meaning, I first needed to cultivate that within myself. Another thing that no one tells you about working on a long-term goal is that it can be very lonely. Not lonely in terms of connection, lonely in terms of no one really cares about what you're working on, and not a lot of people are actually rooting for you. Now don't take it the wrong way. People's indifference about your project or about your goals doesn't come from a place of malice. You can't blame them or you can't be mad at them because they're also busy living their lives, struggling with their own battles. Also, no one really understands your vision like you do. It only exists in your head. You're the only one who can see it clearly. Some people might get your vision, but not the whole thing. However, do appreciate the people who's been rooting for you since day one. Anyways, I knew I had to face the negative thoughts and emotions within myself. And to continue development, I first had to establish a healthy relationship with my goals, where it doesn't feel like a burden, rather a future. I had to change. Thus began introspection and self-discovery. Who uses thus? I mean, it's written in my script, so sometimes it can feel like the answers to our problems are convoluted. But in retrospect, at least for me, it feels like I'm just giving myself excuses. I'm just self-sabotaging. And the truth is, the answer can be very, very simple. So with the challenges I faced within myself during development, what I concluded or what I did was essentially I lived and enjoyed life, and at the same time educated myself on who I am and who I wanted to become. I did the things that I enjoyed without feeling guilty because I'm not working on my game. I played video games, I watched movies, I watched anime, I read mangas, I worked out, I socialized a little more. I listened to audiobooks to entertain and educate me, like Ego is the Enemy, Mastery, Warhammer fantasy books, Go Trek and Felix, and The End Times. I also listened to a lot of philosophical YouTube channels like The School of Life, and it's a German word and I don't even want to pronounce it because I'm just gonna butcher it. I also listen to a lot of Andrew Huberman's podcast because he's credible and a lot of his guests have credentials about productivity, being healthy, and just overall living a balanced life and becoming successful. I think his channel is a great source for those kind of things. I also got into Taoism, which is known for its art of letting go and the state of flow. Over time, I just started living life a little more consciously, conscientiously, and grateful. I started to detach from the outcome of the success of yours truly, and eventually I became more focused on making yours truly as best as I can, instead of asking myself questions I don't have control over, like will it sell? Will it be successful? I also didn't make working on yours truly such a terrible experience anymore. I started to keep a balanced schedule. Don't get me wrong, my priority was still my game, but at the same time I also reserved time for everything else. If I needed a break, I gave myself one. For example, if I'm coding something difficult and I can't find the answer right away, I allow myself to get up and walk away from the computer and just come back to it a few hours later or maybe even the next day. I did the same thing with creativity and inspiration. If it's not there, I don't force it. And instead, I do the things I enjoy and I find inspiration in them to work on yours truly. Eventually, I started to look forward to working on it again every day. Now to the point where it's my favorite thing to do on a Saturday night. Also, the thing that I started to do was protect my thoughts. I consciously started blocking out negative thoughts that my shadow self was casting upon me, self-sabotaging me. And the thing I realized about balancing a schedule is that I became very aware about how finite my time and energy really is. So I stopped just giving it to anything and anyone. I also became more patient with the process instead of forcing it. Ultimately, in the process, I discovered the importance of balance and self-care. I learned to listen to my body and mind, granting myself the grace to step away when needed and return with renewed energy and enthusiasm. I embraced the inherent uncertainty of the creative process and finding solace in the knowledge that growth often arises from discomfort and adversity. And today, as I continue to work on the completion of yours truly, I do so with a newfound sense of purpose and clarity. I'm no longer driven by fear or self-doubt. I approach working on it each day with gratitude and humility, mindful of the privilege inherent in pursuing my purpose. So, in sharing my story and my journey to you, if you're watching this, I hope it connects with you, maybe inspire you a little bit to embark on your own journey, your own path of self-discovery and growth, and find true fulfillment in life, where every day feels purposeful. Every day doesn't feel just like any day, where you're working towards a future and not just existing. What I've found out in this game development journey is that, and it's cliche, but it is true, true fulfillment lies not in the destination, but in the journey. A journey marked by resilience, introspection, and above all, authenticity. If you're watching this, before I end the video, I truly want to know what your dreams and purpose are. If you would like to comment it down below or send me an email about it, I'll happily read it. Maybe I'll even make you a character in yours truly. But anyways, if you like my content, please subscribe, like, and comment. I do appreciate it, and it'll motivate me to make more of this. Anyways, thank you for watching and have a great day.